Today we're going to put in a dog door. This is for Rudy, and I just ordered one off of Amazon. I think it was fairly inexpensive, around $30. I'll show a picture of it so you can see which one I ordered. Here it is, kind of laid out a little bit and opened it up. I'll go through some of the instructions. Some of them are very important. You need to consider these things before you cut a hole in the door. The height of the dog, and it came with a template so that you could use that template to put the right height. You don't want it too low, you don't want it too high. So you do want the right height on the door. Now, this is the location where the door is going to go in. It's in a utility room or the washer room. And I'm not exactly convinced that I should put the door in the center of the door. That is an exterior door. It's a solid core door. It's very heavy. It's probably about a 36-inch door, so it's going to be substantially heavy. I have no intention of trying to cut it right there in place, but I need to pull the hinges, pull the pins out of the hinges, and see how heavy the door is. At this point, I'm just going to pop out the hinge pins, and we're going to see how heavy this door is. So I popped out the hinge pins. As long as the door is still in the casing and the doorknob's latched, it's still relatively in place. This is an older home, probably built in the 60s. A little bit of paint on the hinges that's also helping it. But this is a very large door, so I'm going to see how heavy it is now. And bust it loose, and honest and truly, it's really not that bad. I thought it was a solid core door, and it feels a little bit more like a hollow core door. I decided to go ahead and put it in the center of the door, just make everything look right. And it came with a template that you can put on the door, tells you where to drill the holes. And there's a line right here, it says shoulder height guideline. And I'm going to throw up a little graphic about what exactly that is. But basically, it's the shoulder height of your dog so that you know where to put the door on. So I'm going to take this up. Since this is a hollow core door, use the tools that you have to do the job. Since it's a hollow core door, I was contemplating just using my skill saw. It says to use a jigsaw, but I'm going to use my skill saw. So the cut on the inside will be nice, but since it's a hollow core door, it's going to want to chip up the backside. So I may tape up the backside so I just get a better cut. It's probably going to be covered with the flange on the door. I just don't want to take any chances. I want to make the cut as best as I can. I'll put a little tape on the template just to hold it in place. Normally you'd use a jigsaw to cut this out. So they have places where you can drill with a 1/2-inch bit in these corners so that the jigsaw will fit in and cut out. I'm going to try to do this with a circular saw. It'll be simpler for me, a circular saw and then an oscillating saw to finish out the corners. But right now I got it just taped in just a little bit, and I'm going to trace out the lines on the template to give me my initial cutout. Now, I did notice it was difficult to trace out because the template's just a piece of paper, so it's hard to follow that piece of paper line. So I just marked my corners, and now I'm going to use a frame and square to draw the lines straight. Probably a lot of it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference because the flange of the door will cover whatever cut you make in the door, but I still like to do the best job I can. So I have my lines now, and had I thought the process out in advance, thinking about every step before I got started, I would have done this on the back first because I want to put some tape down, because that skill saw, especially with this being a hollow core door, the skill saw is going to chip up the wood. So in reality, I probably should have started on the back side. That way when I flipped it over, I could start doing all my work on this side and wouldn't have had that extra step. Lesson learned. So I flipped the board over and I put this tape on what is considered the outside of the door, because as the skill saw starts cutting, it's going to want to chip this veneer to pieces. So I put some painter's tape on it, pushed it down really good. Hopefully that'll keep it from chipping up. We'll see what happens. flip it back over. So the idea is to use the skill saw. My intent is to use that because I can cut through both sides at the same time, just leave a little bit in the corner, and then use the oscillating saw to clean out the corners. Yes, you could have done the whole job with this, but then you would have had to cut one side and then the other side. Hopefully with the skill saw, I'll be able to at least have the majority of the cutting done and do both sides at the same time. So all you professional woodworkers have seen what I've done wrong already. Had the right idea, but the wrong application. The circular saw blade turns backwards like this towards me. So I should have taped off the side that was closest to me, the inside of the door, because I did chip it out. Exactly what I thought would happen on the other side, thinking the blade's running this way, so it's cutting down into the wood. Circular saw blade runs the other way. I set the door in and measured from side to side to make sure it's up and down. It has magnetic catch doors that swing open and close, so you want it as level as possible. You don't want that door to not work because you installed it and it's a little bit on an angle. It's going to make a difference. So if you want that door to hang straight down, the door needs to be level. The dog door needs to be level inside the door. So I just used my measurements. That's 2 3/8 from the bottom and 11 1/4 from outside edge, and I trued it up that way. Hopefully everything will work. I tried to use a Sharpie to get down in these holes, to mark these holes. Seems like a sharp pencil would probably be a better idea. It can get down into the hole. I initially wanted to clamp it to the door and just bore the holes straight through the frame, but my clamps won't reach that far in. So you have to do things with the tools that you have. So I'm going to do it as the instructions indicate, and I'm just going to mark the holes. And it says to drill them with a 0.2 drill bit. I don't have a 0.2 drill bit. I have a 0.25 1/4 inch, so that's probably what I'll use. I don't see any problem with that. We will see. And here we go. I'm going to mark it, take the pattern off, and then bore the hole. Next step is to measure the thickness of the door, because it has these fins that go inside the door, and they need to be cut so that it fills in the inside of the unit. Makes it more efficient that way. You don't want big gaping holes inside. So they have these fins that you can cut down. It says you can cut them with a pair of scissors to cut them to the right size. I might go put them on my table saw and see how well they cut. So that's the next step, is to measure the thickness of the door. I'm exactly at 1 3/4. I'm not happy that this is a hollow core door. So a hollow core door is not very strong. They're good for interior doors because they're lightweight, and they're just basically partitions to shut a room off or maybe a hallway. But as far as security wise, this really should be a solid core door, complete wood completely through the thing. And this is a new home purchase that we've done. Not that the home is new, it was built back in the 60s. But we're learning things about it. And one of the things I'm going to want to replace in the future is I'm going to want to put in a solid core door back here. These panels that are going to be for the inside, for this area, have some little grooves in them so that you can cut it to the right thickness. And it says you can cut it with a pair of scissors. So I'm going to use some of these heavy duty scissors, see how easy it cuts. And these are the parts that scare me. According to the instructions, you cut it for the thickness, but that line, the last line that's available, is the closest to what the thickness needs to be as far as my door is concerned. So I hope everything works out, because once I cut these, it's done. I found the plastic very, very hard to cut with the scissors. So I went and put them on the table saw. If you don't have a table saw to do this, you use what you have. But I found it very, very difficult trying to cut this plastic with the scissors. So table saw, I just ran it right through. Hopefully we're at the right size. Let's keep going. The next step is, gave me a roll of tape, adhesive tape, pretty decent sized roll. Looks like way more than I'll possibly need. And it says that what you do is you take that tape and you tape the inside corners like so. and we'll do that all the way around. Now the next step says install the door. I was going to put some silicone down to kind of seal it, but the way the frame is made, I don't really see a lot of places where the silicone would be in a good position to where I'd get a nice silicone seal. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I may silicone it after the fact around the outer edge. So as far as, you know, install, it says just at this point, just put it in, make sure the magnetic thing is towards the bottom. And because those plastic pieces are on there now, it's a little tighter fit, but everything seems to be going relatively well. It seems to be in place. Now these little neoprene screws, it has a Phillips head on this end, and those will go on the outside. So when I put this other door up underneath, they will go up this way so that the metal nut that comes with it will be on the inside. Now I'm going to try a couple of these and see if I can do it with the door still on the sawhorses. It may be a little too difficult to try to manipulate all this all at one time. If you had help, it would be different. And I'm going to just put this door where it needs to go, and hopefully everything will line up. And you can already see a problem. It looks like the fins aren't long enough, or I just don't have this popped all the way in. It said cut the fins the length of the door, the thickness of the door, and maybe I don't have, no, that's what the situation is. This isn't pushed all the way down. And this may be a little too difficult to do with the door just. As a matter of fact, I don't even see my holes anymore. So I think I'll go ahead and hang the door back, and then since the door's standing up, maybe a little simpler to get this back piece on. But right now it's too difficult to try to do both at the same time. So let's go rehang the door, or maybe turn this door on its side on the sawhorses. I'm a little afraid of that because I am by myself, and if it starts falling, I don't know what I'm going to do. So at this point, I'm just going to put the door back up on the hinges, and then try to do this bolt up at that time. Now at this point, I'm going to put the door on, make sure the magnet is towards the bottom. And as far as these little neoprene screws are concerned, I dropped one between the washing machine and dryer. I can get it if I have to. I hope they gave me some extras. That would be really, really great, because those kind of things happen. So let's see if this goes a little better now that the door is already hanging. Okay. I did notice that the top tabs seem to be a little longer than they need to be. I don't know what the situation is, but it definitely is causing me a little bit of aggravation here. I'm going to retape the tape in the corners, try to manipulate them a little better. It did seem like it was off a little bit, so I'm going to kind of split the difference on that part. And of course, I'm going to have to retape. I don't see any reason why I can't do that after the fact. So this is one of those little idiosyncrasies that you don't think about when you're doing it. I did see that it was overlapped a little bit, and I didn't think much of it. I thought because of the way the frame was that wouldn't be an issue, but trying to put it in right now, it definitely was an issue. So let's get that line back up. Let's try this again. And that went a lot better. Still not in on the bottom. And that cardboard may get in the way of some of my holes when I go try to put these bolts through. Okay, that seems to be pretty good. Let's see if we can get some of these through now. And I do seem to be just a little bit off with my hole. So at this point, since it's already standing up, I'm just going to re-drill the holes, and that'll take care of that. As I expected, there's always situations. I put these bolts through and put the nut on the back side on 2 of them, and my holes just aren't lining up. So I'm going to re-drill the holes and then put these neoprene bolts through. I am going to use my screw gun or my drill motor. I'm going to put it on number 1 because it's not drilling anymore. If you're drilling, you click it on number 2, it's faster. I'm going to put it on number 1. I'm going to turn the torque all the way down, but I still don't think that might be enough. So I'm just going to be real careful when I'm putting them in. These are neoprene, so you can strip them out real easy. Don't do that. And I'll just go ahead and run these all the way around. Now, I did put some clamps to kind of pull the door in. That way, I'm not trying to do it with the little neoprene. I think this has helped considerably, just putting these little clamps around the inside. If I was to do it over again, I would have made the little fins a little wider. Not cut them exactly the thickness of the door, but allow a little bit of extra. There's plenty of play inside the framing of the door that it would have compensated for that. So I'm having to clamp it up to make sure that plastic insert is completely covering the core of the wood. If it had been a little bigger, I think it would have worked out just fine. This is just one of those things you learn when you're doing something for the first time. So all in all, it wasn't a simple project. It took a little time. Don't expect to do it in 30 minutes. I don't know what they say to allow as far as time frame, but at this point I have to put all the bolts through. I have to re-drill all the holes with the door where it is, and then put the neoprene bolts through, put the nut on the back side, tighten them, snug them down, and then cut the neoprene bolts off so they're not sticking out the back side of the door. There isn't any like plugs for plugging up the back side so that you're not looking at where the bolt comes through. I imagine you could use some of the black tape that you get if you want to, just to cover up the little holes, or put some black silicone in it. It would have been nice to have the little vinyl hole that you can peel off and stick over to cover up the hole, and maybe it is in there someplace. Maybe I just didn't notice it, but I think that would have been a nice touch for the kit. This product, yeah, let's turn sideways. Let's make y'all dizzy. Turned out pretty decent. I went and clipped off with a very tiny pair of clippers here, and I clipped the bolts off. Neoprene bolts, and they're still pretty obvious. You can see them pretty easily, but I have no problem with taking the extra tape that came with it, maybe thinning it down, cutting it a little thinner, and just putting it on that door, cover up the holes, or you can put a little black silicone in it, whatever you want to do to cover up the holes. There were a couple extra bolts, a couple extra nuts, so they took into consideration somebody like me who's going to drop them, or you may strip them out while you're trying to install them. And here's the exterior. It's a little hard to see because the door was already black, but I will come back later on and I will silicone up the crack. Even though there is a storm door, I'll silicone the crack on this. And then as far as the inside, as far as where the tape was in these joints, I just took the tape back out and I'm going to run a bead of silicone in there. So the project's done. It looks pretty decent. It took a little bit of time. This is one of those jobs that you can do yourself. It helps if you have some equipment to make things a little bit easier. But other than that, job's done. A little side note, the flaps that allow the dog to pass from the inside to the outside, to swing back and forth. It has a little magnetic strip at the bottom, and that magnetic strip seems to be migrating back and forth on the piece of plastic, so that if it gets moved off a little bit, and that happens when the dog goes through it's going to get hung up. It won't seal correctly. So I'm going to put a little bit of silicone on there, hopefully to keep that plastic from migrating back and forth. Other than that, at this point, it's just training him to go through the door. He doesn't really understand. There's some instructions that come with the assembly manual on how to get your dog to start using the door. Once he realizes that there's a flap there and I kind of push it with my hand, he comes right through, and he fits through just perfectly. It's perfect size. Got the medium size, and he's about 40 pounds. And it fits him perfectly. He gets through there no problem. You also have to keep in consideration the size of your dog, small, medium, large, because you want the appropriate door size. Once he gets used to it, I think it'll be a good thing. But right now he doesn't understand that's a way to get in and out of the house into the backyard. And then other than the plastic migrating back and forth and a way to cover the holes up in the back, all in all, for the price, it's a pretty good value for the money at this point. There's a plastic cover that goes on the back, so if you want to make it to where the animal can't go in or out, that will kind of block off the door. It slides into a little groove. As far as safety is concerned, once again, my door was a hollow core door, so that shouldn't even be on the back of the house. It should be a solid core door. That little piece of plastic that goes down to keep your animal from going in and out would not keep somebody from punching through if they wanted to get in. Now, I understand somebody wants to get into your house, they're going to get into your house. It doesn't necessarily have to be through the small doggy door. Someone of small stature could punch through that plastic protector and get into the home. In the future, depending on if we feel the need or not, I might put some aluminum track and then put a stronger partition that we can slide down over there, or some sort of bar system, little door that we can shut to make it more secure. But for right now, once the storm door is closed, you hardly see the dog door. And we just have to get the dog used to it. For the price, I think it's a really good product, but it is a little bit of a project to get in. And once again, depends on what kind of tools you have. Fortunately, I had some tools that made the job a little bit easier. And if I had to do it all over again, there are some things I'd do differently, especially drilling the holes through the door. I think I might just do a couple, then install the door, and then bore the rest of the holes after that. Other than that, the template worked out pretty good. Everything went really fine, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day.